Imagine your town just got hit by a tornado, homes destroyed, roads washed out, people stranded. Now imagine the federal government has $300 million sitting around. But instead of helping communities, it goes to pay for Trump's golf trips. That's exactly what Congressman Goldman just exposed. This is not political theater. It's real money, real consequences, and a glaring example of priorities gone completely wrong.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're here today, ostensibly, to fund the Department of Homeland Security through a partisan reconciliation bill that intentionally and very clearly bypasses any cooperation with Democrats. I want to talk for a minute about what is actually in this bill, which is pretty remarkable. First of all, 2/3 of the funding in this bill goes to the border wall. Now, you can make arguments about the border wall all you want. Obviously, we know it's a pet project of the president. Would it be better if we had a border wall to keep the border safe? Probably. But is it really the most effective use of $46 billion? Of course not. Because not included in here is any funding for the actual effective methods of keeping the border secure. We live in a technological world right now where building a wall where we've seen people scale it very easily, where we've seen it fall down because of the wind, is a relic from the 1950s that should not be what our government is spending $46 billion on. But worse, let's talk about what is not in this bill. There is no money for emergency management for FEMA. Now, this is not a partisan issue. Red districts suffer from natural disasters certainly as much or more as blue districts. And I can assure you, to my Republican colleagues, that when your district gets a flood or a tornado or a hurricane, you are going to be coming to FEMA begging for money. And I don't want to hear a single word from any of my Republican colleagues about where is FEMA when they need emergency management support. Because you are voting for a bill that includes nothing for money that you will need, and you will need it. You are being short-sighted. But do not worry, there is money for FEMA. There is money for FEMA, $300 billion. You know what that's for? For Donald Trump to play golf. $300 million to reimburse local law enforcement for presidential protection related to activities by the president. $300 million. Donald Trump has played golf 24 out of his first 99 days. That is a quarter of the days. So you are funding a bill that does not give any money for natural disasters, that does not repay towns, cities, states for the tremendous amount of money that they have paid out for our immigration system to operate. Nope. And that's red districts too. But we are going to make sure Donald Trump can play golf, because that's where our $300 million of FEMA money should go to. It's a disgrace. And it's a disgrace that none of my Republican colleagues will speak up against this money for golf, against the obvious and egregious due process violations. I know you. I know you are good people. I know you care about due process. You care about the rule of law. And I know in your private moments, when you think about Kilar Abrau Garcia, and you see that the administration admitted that he was wrongly deported and sent to a prison in El Salvador that you know that the president should simply correct the mistake, bring him back home so he can go through the proper court system. When are you going to speak publicly? When are you going to speak out for simple due process, which is the bedrock of our country? Because now it's going from Kilar Abrau to American citizens, and who knows when it will be next. Donald Trump's not listening to me, but he will listen to you all. And I urge you to speak up for the good of our Constitution.
The gentleman's time has expired.
What we're witnessing in this hearing is a clear demonstration of how government priorities can become dangerously misaligned with public need. Congressman Goldman didn't just speak out. He laid bare a fundamental issue in Washington, a bill that is supposed to fund the Department of Homeland Security, ostensibly to protect citizens and respond to emergencies, instead funnels money into projects that serve political or personal interests. 2/3 of the $46 billion in this bill is allocated to the border wall, a project that has been heralded by some as essential but has repeatedly been shown to be ineffective against modern challenges. People can scale it, it can fall in storms, and yet this bill directs billions toward it while leaving actual emergency management virtually unfunded. The most shocking part is the $300 million designated for FEMA. In theory, FEMA is meant to respond to disasters, floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, and provide support to cities, towns, and states struggling to recover. Yet in this bill, that money is earmarked for reimbursing law enforcement for presidential protection related to Trump's golf trips. Think about that for a moment. Communities are dealing with real-world devastation, but the resources meant to help them are redirected to fund leisure activities. This is a tangible example of how policy decisions in Washington can ignore human consequences. And it's not just about dollars, it's about lives and livelihoods. Goldman emphasizes that this is not a partisan issue. Red districts, which are often portrayed as fully aligned with the administration, suffer natural disasters just as much as blue districts. The irony is stark. Representatives who voted for this bill may one day find their own communities in crisis, forced to scramble for resources they just voted not to fund. This exposes the short-sightedness of prioritizing political showpieces over practical, life-saving programs. Furthermore, Goldman links this misuse of power to a broader concern about accountability and due process. He references Kilar Abrau Garcia, a man who was wrongly deported and sent to a prison in El Salvador, to illustrate a systemic disregard for the rule of law. His point is that when government mismanagement or politicized spending is tolerated, it doesn't just affect individuals like Garcia, it sets a precedent that could eventually impact any American citizen. This is not abstract legal theory. It is a warning grounded in real-life consequences, and it reinforces why citizens and lawmakers alike must demand transparency and accountability. The commentary here also teaches a crucial lesson about civic engagement and oversight. Funding decisions are rarely neutral. They reflect values, priorities, and political incentives. The case Goldman presents is a concrete example of how critical it is for people to understand where their tax dollars go, how legislation is structured, and how oversight mechanisms work. When billions are shifted toward politically advantageous projects instead of public safety, it's not just mismanagement, it is a choice, and citizens should be able to recognize that choice and hold leaders accountable. Ultimately, this is a lesson in the human cost of misaligned policy. Washington may frame debates in dollars and bureaucracy, but at the end of the day, every number has a ripple effect on communities, families, and individuals. Goldman's passionate speech is more than criticism. It is a call for responsibility, for recognizing that leadership is about protecting people first, not prioritizing personal or political interests. If you want to stay informed and truly understand how these decisions impact real lives, subscribe to Left Lens. We go beyond the headlines to explain the implications, connect policy to everyday realities, and provide the insight you need to make sense of the decisions shaping our country. Don't just watch the news. Understand it, learn from it, and use that knowledge to hold power accountable. Ultimately, this is a lesson in the human cost of misaligned policy. Washington may frame debates in dollars and bureaucracy, but at the end of the day, every number has a ripple effect on communities, families, and individuals. Goldman's passionate speech is more than criticism. It is a call for responsibility, for recognizing that leadership is about protecting people first, not prioritizing personal or political interests. If you want to stay informed and truly understand how these decisions impact real lives, subscribe to Left Lens. We go beyond the headlines to explain the implications, connect policy to everyday realities, and provide the insight you need to make sense of the decisions shaping our country. Don't just watch the news. Understand it, learn from it, and use that knowledge to hold power accountable.